Let's talk Tuesday night because you were there at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. So listen, I have to admit, I turned this game off. I admit it. 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 I turned it off. I did not see the ending. I checked my phone. I watched the highlights, and I could not believe what I saw. I thought this game was over. And obviously, Dean Wade, one of the best shooting studs of his career. Listen, I've said this about the Celtics, and your guy, Jason Tatum, he was lighting up in the first half, and then what he do with the second half because he does not have that dog in him. Jason Tatum only had 4 points in the second half, and he was whining because Darius Garland almost touched me. I should have got a foul call. You know what? That game was officiated the way the game is going to be officiated in the postseason. Not a lot of foul calls, very toughness, very physical, play. But I think Boston, they were looking ahead to Denver. They were like, it's the Cavs. They took him lightly a little bit. Dean Wade had the best shooting night of his career. But in the end, it doesn't really make a difference because the Celtics are 8 games up on the number one seed.
So are you saying this was just a bad game for Boston?
I would say a bad quarter, not even a bad game. I think it was a bad quarter, and I think the Cavs got hot. They got hot last night against Atlanta. They just could not pull off the comeback completely. But I think the fact that Dean Wade had the best shooting night of his career that he will never have again, and the Cavs are clearly becoming the luckiest team in the NBA.
Okay, before I get into this, screw you, NBA schedule makers. Stop giving us these back-to-backs. Like last week, we had the home game against Dallas, so against Kyrie and Luka, and we all know what happened there. And then the next night, we have to go on the road and play at Chicago. And then on Tuesday, we host the best team in the league, in the Boston Celtics, featuring Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. And then the next night we have to go and play Atlanta. Screw you, NBA schedule makers. Screw you. Stop doing that to us. Stop it. Because coming up on Sunday, we have to play Brooklyn. And then on Monday, we have to come back and play Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, maybe Devin Booker, and the Phoenix Suns. Are you freaking kidding me?
Oh, you want to cry about it? Is it too hard? You players on your schedule. The Cavs didn't play a good team for 2 months. Now they're getting the call one in March, which may be a good thing for them. You can make an argument in the postseason when you're not going to have back-to-backs. The Cavs are going to be battle-tested. Listen, I agree the NBA schedule is messed up in the way that they schedule games. But, you have a hard team this and a hard team that. These guys are professionals. Can we stop whining about the schedule?
No.
It's not like the NFL where you're going to physical war for 60 minutes a game and you got to play like the Eagles did this year. Dallas, who is your big arch rivalry, a way bigger rivalry than North Carolina and Duke. Then you got to play Kansas City. Then you got to play Buffalo. Then you got to play San Francisco. Then you got to play Dallas. Then you got to play Seattle. It's not like that in the NBA. In the NBA, these guys don't play defense in the regular season. It's why guys are scoring 50 and 60 points at will. They're whining about, I got hit on the yard. I should have got a foul. When in the playoffs, they're not calling this regular season BS. It's why in the playoffs, the veteran teams will win. And it's why I think the Cavs, unless they can toughen up because they lost to the Knicks, which is the bigger story than this game because they took the Knicks too lightly without their two best players, are going to get eliminated in the first round.
Well, as of right now, we'd be playing the Miami Heat in the first round.
We would lose to Miami. The only two teams the Cavs could beat in the first round, I'm pretty sure I made this clear last week, and if I did not, I'll say it here. We would beat Indiana, I would believe. And I think we would just crush Orlando because I think Orlando's too young. I think they're like the Cavs last year where they're puppies. They won't be ready for the moment. But if the Cavs had to play Miami, hell, if they had to play a Sixer team with Joel Embiid, they would lose that series because Joel Embiid would own their ass.
Yes. But anyway, getting back to the question at hand, I do think this is a bit of a bad sign for the Boston Celtics. Because if you watched down the stretch, they went into a lot of isolation basketball with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Most teams do that.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I'll give you that. But they, I don't know what it was with them, but like there was no ball movement. It was just
That's
one
what teams do when there's 2 minutes left in games. For some reason, they stop ball movement and they go isolation. Even Golden State has done it at times. But I will remind you that the 2016, I know it was a long time ago, but I specifically remember this game. 2016, the eventual NBA champion, Cleveland Cavaliers, lost to a Memphis Grizzlies team with all bench players in February. So
yes.
it happens. Bad nights happen. Again, I think Boston is just cruising through the regular season. I think they're bored. We're about to talk about this. I think that they give Denver everything they have tonight because they were embarrassed on national TV. I think that plays more into it. But Boston, they won the season series 2 out of 3 against Cleveland. They should have swept them. They know they outplayed Cleveland. They know they have to execute better. Would this game be different if the Cavs had Donovan Mitchell? Probably. Evan Mobley got hurt, which is concerning for me now. But for me, it's just an NBA regular season night on a Tuesday.
It was amazing to be there. I had a great time. It was a little awkward being there by myself. I'll admit that. But again, I'm probably in the minority, but I fully believe Celtics Cavaliers is a rivalry. They've played each other 5 times in the playoffs since 2008. I'm talking 2008, 2010, 2015, 2017, 2018, and the series in 2008 and 2018 both went the distance to a game 7. I still remember the legendary battle between Paul Pierce and LeBron from game 7 of 2008, that where LeBron went for 45 and Paul Pierce went for 41. And then you look at the regular season series last year. Yes, the Cleveland Cavaliers won 3 out of 4, but 3 of those games went into overtime. I fully believe Cavaliers Celtics is a rivalry, and I was desperately asking to see this series in the playoffs last season. I really want to see it in the playoffs this season. I don't care if it's the Eastern Conference semifinals. I don't care if we somehow get to the Eastern Conference Finals and that's the matchup. I want to see Cavaliers against the Celtics in the NBA playoffs because it would be fantastic.
I think the Cavs would lose in 5 games, and I think you'd be severely disappointed because I think 2 or 3 of those games would be complete and utter beatdowns. Now, I don't think that this is a real rivalry because I don't think it has any superstars. I think Donovan Mitchell's a star, close to a superstar if he can do things in the postseason. And I absolutely do not believe Jason Tatum is a top 10 player in the NBA. I think this thing that he's an MVP because he's on the best team is a joke. I think Jason Tatum is not very good in clutch time. He hasn't been good in clutch time over the last 3 years. And when push comes to shove in every big playoff moment in the Boston Celtics last 5 years, it's been Jaylen Brown there to make the clutch shots.
I will say this about Jason Tatum. He's had 3 opportunities to hit a game-winning shot, and he failed on all 3. Go back and watch the game against Denver earlier this season in Boston. They went to Jason Tatum for the game-winning shot. He missed it. Against Minnesota, same thing. And on Tuesday against Cleveland, he missed it, got fouled, but then JB Bickerstaff grew a set of balls, challenged it, and the referees said, oh, wait, Jason Tatum kicked his leg out, which I was there. Like I said, I was there. I saw the replay on the Jumbotron. Even I was saying, oh, that's not a foul. Jason Tatum kicked his leg out. So the referees totally got it right. And I have no issue with them rescinding the call.
Speaking of Boston, you do know tonight could be a potential NBA Finals preview, but I am here to say that it will not be an NBA Finals preview. And I am here to say one of these teams will make the finals and one of these teams will not make the finals. And as I told you last week, I think we have a new dynasty in the NBA, and I think they are from Denver, Colorado, and they are the Denver Nuggets. And I think that they will win the West, and I think they will get back to the NBA Finals, especially with today's news that it sounds like Minnesota, Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be out for at least the regular season, if not some of the postseason, which I think severely hurts Minnesota's chances because I think they're the one team that could have matched up with Denver. With that being said, I know they're inconsistent. They've had bad coaching all year. I just think they're way too talented. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are going to find a way to get back to the NBA Finals. I think Giannis, I think if you take a matchup between Boston and Milwaukee, out of the four best players, I think obviously Giannis is number one. I'd put Tatum at number two. And I think depending on the night, it's Damian Lillard or Jaylen Brown at number three. I just think Milwaukee, and Drew Holiday is a very good player. I don't think he's as good of a scorer as he was a couple years ago. What he's known for now is obviously his defensive paralysis. But I think Milwaukee, knowing that they beat Boston before, knowing that they have been there, done that, that championship DNA, if they can even get a healthy Chris Middleton, they're going to be very hard to beat.
We're only a half game behind them in the standings. So
yeah, and it's going to be interesting because I think, again, if the Cavs get to play Milwaukee in the second round, I think that they would lose to Milwaukee unless Donovan Mitchell had a heroic series. I think Milwaukee Boston is still set. We said at the beginning of the year it was 8 Bucks and Celtics Eastern Conference Finals. I still feel that way. I said at the beginning of the year Milwaukee was just a slitch better, and I'm sticking with my opinion.
If tonight's game between the Celtics and Nuggets does end up being the NBA Finals, which I would be very happy with because I think that would be a fantastic series, I think Boston would have the advantage because they would have home court advantage in that series.
I don't think home court advantage matters when you're facing Nikola Jokic.
Hold on. Because Boston would have home court advantage, they wouldn't have to go into the thin air of Denver and deal with the altitude 4 times.
Actually, they would only go 3 times and they would lose in 6. You just made my argument easier.
I think that series would go the full 7, but
I don't. I think Boston would be too scared of the moment again. I think Denver would just work them. I think Denver's deeper. I think Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter would give Jason Tatum problems. And I don't think Boston, I think Al Horford would get destroyed down low by Jokic. I thought at least last year, Bam Adebayo did his part with Miami. If Miami got better shooting, they had a better chance to beat Denver than I think Boston. I actually think Milwaukee matches up well with Denver. I actually think our Cavs match up better with Denver than Boston does. I just don't see anybody on. I think Boston is all based off threes, and I think as you know, as short as Kristaps or as good as he is, I should say, from the 3-point land, he's basically a stick. He has no weight on him, even though he's 7'3". I think Jokic would just bully him inside. So for that series, it would really come down to, can Boston hit all the threes in the world? Boston reminds me a little bit of the Houston Rockets teams of Mike D'Antoni, where they would just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot and not go to the rim. I think you can get for the East with that. I don't think you're getting for the West.
Yeah, I would favor, even though Boston would have home court advantage in that series, I would still favor Denver. So I'm not disagreeing with you there. I'm just saying I think
you just said you think Boston would have the edge because they had home court. Then you'd still pick Denver. What?
Two things can be true.
It doesn't make it. You said, "Oh, I think the Celtics have the advantage," but I'm going to pick the Nuggets because the advantages don't matter. It's pretty much what you're saying.
No, I'm saying Boston would have the advantage, but Denver has already gone into Boston this season and won. So I don't think the Nuggets would be intimidated by going into Boston
And for
for
the
the.
record, even if Boston wins this game tonight, which I think they actually will, because like I said, I think they were embarrassed on national TV Tuesday night blowing that game, and I don't think Denver cares. I don't think that they care what seed they are. They just want to go into the playoffs healthy. I could see like the thing is like if are the Lakers they may match up with OKC. Golden State could match up with the T Wolves. In that scenario, could the 8 and 7 seeds knock off the 1 and 2? Absolutely. I think the Pelicans are a good team. I think they have a first round ceiling. Phoenix, I don't trust them. I think Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are too redundant of players to get anywhere to the conference finals. I think the Clippers, as good as they are, is James Harden going to actually have a good playoff series, and can Kawhi Leonard and Paul George stay healthy for 2 months? I
And
think,
also, they just lost Russell Westbrook because he fractured his hand.
yeah.
That's a major loss for the
Oh,
Clippers.
listen, Russell, I haven't had anything bad to say about him this year because he's been pretty good off the bench. But sometimes Russell Westbrook can be the worst player in basketball, and I'm not exaggerating.
I hear you. But I think that would be a fantastic series if we get it in the finals. Seeing Jokic and Murray go against Tatum and Brown. That's part of the reason why I was so excited for Tuesday night's game, was because I wanted to see Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland go against Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in a battle of dynamic duos. And I thought Tuesday night's matchup would be number 1 against number 2 in the East. It didn't end up playing out that way,
Well,
but
because again, the players don't really care about the regular season. This is what, and I understand Donovan Mitchell got the shot and he was hurt, but even Jaylen Brown and guys like Strus didn't play, and Levert, they were game time decision because guys are like, who cares? It's March. We don't care if it's the number 1 versus the number 2 seed, because guess what? Chances are we're probably not going to meet up in the playoffs because we know deep down we're not as good as them. We know we're a second round team.
I understand that. And maybe it was just me creating my own storylines.
That's what you do a lot. You create your own storyline to hype yourself up.
And I don't see. Is there anything wrong with me doing that?
I'm not saying there's wrong with that. I think sometimes you set expectations too high, and I think it can lead to disappointment.
Well, I certainly wasn't disappointed with Tuesday night. And if we get Nuggets Celtics in the finals, I would not be disappointed with that.
I'll say this. I think Denver Boston would be a good series. I think Denver as a national draw, even though Jokic is great, I think he's the best player in the world. Denver, and you talk to people in the Denver area, and I have inside knowledge of this because my brother lives in Denver now. There's no way that they have like no access to watch the games, so it's like very hard there. They don't have a TV contract like Bowie. So for that reason, even if Denver does become what I think they are, originally back-to-back champions, their market size is not like, wow, I can't wait to go see the Denver Nuggets tonight. Basketball is not like football, where I think in basketball you do need the bigger markets to make it feel like, yes, this is going to be a great series.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would say Denver can be one of the bigger markets, but for some reason they're just not. I think it's partially because the Nuggets, the last time they were really relevant before they found their groove with Jokic and Murray was like in the early 2000s when they had
2009 when they made the Western Conference Finals with Carmelo Anthony.
Yes.
And I will say this, by the way, Denver as a town is kind of like Cleveland in a way where they support the Nuggets. They kind of support the Rockies, but they are all in on the Broncos. So it's like the Nuggets win the championship. They're like, Nuggets win the championship. If Denver won the Super Bowl, what got the whole town's on fire?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even when the Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup just 2 years ago, like, what was Denver fully behind that? Yes, but not like when the Broncos won the Super Bowl in 2015.